So California should fare better than in years past. We'll see how it shakes out.
And once again, we want to remind you as we get ready for the start of the girls' race that we will have our team results along the way at 1K, 2K, 3K, and 4K. Then we will hold off on the official finishers to make sure they are scored right. But we will have chips in shoes telling us what the updates on the team scores every kilometer here in Portland Meadows. We have many, many people along Portland Meadows running alongside from one side of the course. You can hear that wind whistling in our microphones. And part of those are not just race jitters, they're just trying to keep warm up there on that starting line.
You know, Tony, 7 years, and we've had 7 different types of race conditions. You know, we had very muddy, very rainy, very hard, very cold. And today, the wind will be the biggest factor in this race. Once again, we saw earlier that we're gusting at just under 25 miles an hour. It's definitely picked up since then. We've seen the flags really, really blowing. It's going to be in their face. It appears to be along, the home stretch, actually.
22 girls teams and also 45 individuals from these 9 regions across the country, anxiously awaiting that starter's pistol. A good day to race. A tough day to watch, but a good day to race. Once again, we have many individual state champions here, regional qualifying champions, and a lot of these racers are used to dominating their competitions, and that's one thing they won't be able to do out there today, and that's a whole mindset in and of itself.
So many champions here, divisional champions, regional champions, state champions. If we look around, it's just a mass of talent out there. We're now a few seconds away, 44 degrees, winds now gusting to 25 miles an hour.
And we are away at the 2010 Nike Cross Nationals Girls Championship Race. Fireworks going off in the sky. And Rich, one of the things about this race course, it's a wide starting grid. However, it bottlenecks very quickly. So once again, like so many cross-country races, it's important to go out hard to get in a good position.
It's roughly about 360 meters before that very first turn, and as one of the kids described it yesterday, the start of it, it's the fastest 100 meters you will ever run in your life. These kids are so jacked up on adrenaline right here. They come out very quickly, and when it does bottleneck, it is a problem. It is very important. It is crucial to get out quickly on this course.
I've talked to athletes who have run this before, and they've gotten caught after that first turn, and then it's so hard to go by that mass of runners. You really lose your opportunity if you don't go out pretty hard.
If you're working from behind, you've got 2 barriers. One, of course, the footing will not be usually as strong or as good as it usually is. And number 2, the field is much tougher, so you need to exert more energy to try and pass that caliber of talent. So it's a double whammy. It really, really hurts you if you have a bad start in this race.
Now, Manlius, I believe, is in blue. There's our first turn, and you can see that first mud pit. And the Manlius girls are wearing numbers 134 through 140. The Kinetic kids are wearing 141 through 147. Newhall cross country out of California, 167 through 173. And Wilmington, these are our top 4 potential champions, 96 through 102.
You see all the athletes here have both hip numbers on their hips and also bib numbers on their chest. And the bib numbers, all of them are black except for 8 runners in this field. The 7 girls from Manlius, denoting them as defending champions in this race, and also our top individual returning, Rebecca Mayra from Palos Verdes of California. So those 8 are the gold bibs you see in this field.
And Manlius is in black and gold with the gold bibs. So that's how we'll be able to identify them. And who is that out front? It's a Manlius number 136. That could be Jillian Fanning, and we're taking a quick look. Oh, that's Chris Zielinski is out there on our lead gator. Chris, you must be freezing, but how's it look? Chris Zielinski, can you hear us? 126. Well, it's hard to really tell.
We just passed the common finish line here.
Christie Rutledge is actually the leader right now for Manlius. She is a New York State champion.
You guys hear me?
We were saying earlier. You have one of their athletes.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can. Chris, go right ahead. Chris Zielinski, can you hear us? That's Christie Rutledge, we believe, 136 out front.
Hey, guys. It was great stuff by Manlius.
Well, Chris is breaking up a little bit. This always happens. It works well in rehearsal, and then you fire the gun, and somebody shoots the cord.
I think his jaws are freezing out there. That must be it.
But Christie Rutledge taking it out rather hard, and the rest of the field well bunched with our chase pack right there. What do you think of the strategy? going out hard like this.
Well, really, once again, I mean, they're running it's not necessarily a fast pace when they came across. We're waiting still for our first case split officially. But Manlius is not one that's going to go out and try and win this from the back. They know they're coming in here fit. They know this course well, and it's key to get good position. So it's not really a surprise they're out front. No one seems to be really forcing the pace here. We'll see right now. It seems like each of these leaders here are all from teams. One of our individuals, we're trying to ID our first one in this lead pack here. But I mean, once again, we do have to go out really fast on this course. Manlius knows that, and they're in pretty good position early on here.
I just saw number 157 up there. That's Shaylin Tuitt out of New York. She was 33rd in this race last year. Again, lots of veterans out on this course. They were down here at the course yesterday, previewing the course, running over it, seeing where the puddles were, trying to find the best line in which to run. And right now, we're just about 4 minutes into the competition. Hopefully we'll get our first 1K split on who the team leaders are. But right now, it is Christie Rutledge out of Manlius Cross Country, the defending champions 4 times over, who is leading this championship.
And you can see right now as they're heading through that east bay on the east end of this indoor, on the infield of the racetrack, and heading through the whoop-de-doos. Here they come, the camelbacks. And this is one that is just disrupts rhythm in the race, and it's so key to try and keep rhythm in cross country. And this right here throws it off. They're very short, very quick, but they're consecutive little rolling mounds that tend to really test individuals. It's more of a frustration factor, and kids need to go ahead and get through this and get back into a rhythm off the camelbacks as quick as they can.
I believe that's number 91 in second place, Rachel Johnson, the South Region champion. She's one of the top. She is the second top returner in this race from last year. She was 6th in 2009. She's wearing that blue and white outfit as the rest of the girls make their way past the whoop-de-doos. That's certainly something that nobody trains on all year long or race is over.
Right, and Johnson coming in this year was one of the favorites coming into this race. Actually, she has experience on this course. She's done great in the South region this year, as you mentioned, the regional champion. Of course, this is a little bit different weather than she's probably used to over in Texas in late season.
4 girls have separated themselves, and they're in a line because it really is Christie Rutledge, number 136, the New York State champion for Manlius, who is pressing this effort. And I think that's what we've seen with Manlius. It's about who feels good on the day, and there isn't this number one runner on the Manlius team.
You can't emphasize enough, Tony, once again, that mindset. A lot of teams, they have a front runner or maybe 2 runners. If they're in front, fine. If that kid is off pace, what happens here is these kids tend to panic. Right here, everyone feels number 1, so no matter what happens, they all keep charging the whole way through. There's no easing up. There's no filing behind somebody else. It's all a case of applying yourself for your teammates. So we saw the first 15 runners come by through us, just beyond 2 kilometers, and right now we're seeing a big pack, that chase pack of about 15, 20 kids, and those are a lot of valuable team points. What we see typically in these events, Tony, is we have our front runner. In typical cross country, the teams that win are the ones that have strong 4th and 5th runners. At this meet, all of these teams have strong 4 or 5 runners, so we have basically a reverse effect where it comes down to which of all these great teams have the best front runners.
Well, there's number 15, Allie Woodward, on the inside. She is right there in 3rd or 4th place. But right now, it's Rachel Johnson, number 91, Christie Rutledge, number 136, Allie Woodward, number 15. And Rutledge just refuses to give up that lead. And she's looking very strong. It's not like she's looking different with any difficulty as they finally go over the hay bales for the first time. And, the first time around, the hay bales and whoop-de-doos don't have that much of an effect on the athletes. It's that second time around where you're heavy-legged, and that really, we've seen people go down.
Right. Yesterday, when the kids were out on this course and doing their run-throughs, at first glance, they thought the course is in pretty good shape. It seems quite firm, and from a glance, it seemed fairly dry in certain areas. Once they actually came onto the infield and started moving around, it started being quite sloshy, and they realized, as we have a challenge in our hands come tomorrow, come race day.
Just to let you know, the course record here at Portland Meadows, 17:26.9 by Chelsea Svensson. That was back in 2008. So we will see if the conditions out there are conducive to fast running or not. As we continue to see our early and long time and consistent leader, Christie Rutledge from Manlius Cross Country, leading number 91, Rachel Johnson, 6th in the race last year from the South region. Allie Woodward, number 15 back there. And Haley Pierce, she was 7th. That's who that 4th runner is. Haley Pierce, 7th in this competition last year.
So a lot of our pre-race favorites, basically Johnson, Pierce, Woodward, and then take your pick from the Manlius crew, and that's exactly what we have here right now.
Well, Rutledge is really sort of laying waste to this to this individual competition as now the string is getting longer and longer. We can see two other of the Manlius girls right there in that chase pack, you know, with the black and gold with the gold bibs, looking in very good condition. Trying to see a little bit back farther, we can see the 4th and 5th runners. But Katie Cisco was a sectional champion for the Manlius girls and 21st in this competition last year.
And, you know, the obvious main goal for Manlius, of course, is to win a 5th straight, but an additional goal they have here, as you mentioned, to try and beat Saratoga's meet record for low points. And keep in mind, this field is even deeper than that was back then. So if they can pull that off, it is a tremendous statement as to what kind of talent this team has.
Well, you know, in 2006, when they won their first title, they weren't the favorites at all. They really weren't ranked. And then they came in there and just peaked just right, and they scored like 100 and some points. The next year was 84 points. The next year was 66 points. Last year, 74. And even though they won, there was almost a little bit of a feeling that they really didn't deliver as high as they could have.
Right. It is interesting you mentioned that. Back then, not only in preseason, but in midseason, they were still unranked nationally. And it wasn't until late season they pulled off a victory in basically the qualifying for state, then state, of course, you know, feds, and then going on to this championship right here. But they did come out of nowhere. This year, we've seen a lot of movement in the rankings. We have some teams that really have never really followed through on any sort of ranking here. And those rankings, of course, don't mean a darn thing in this race today.
Well, there's that slight little rise, and now the gap is as large as it's ever been as Christie Rutledge continues to just hammer this race away. But I'm telling you, 91 Rachel Johnson is coming back on her very strong right now.
Yeah, Johnson looks very good in that chase right there, really closing the gap. When we see our 2 skate scores.
Well, there it is. Those are our 3 favorites, Manlius, Kinetic, and Newhall with Wilmington and Fort Collins. Listen, Manlius, Kinetic, Newhall, and Fort Collins were the top 4 finishers last year. And look at, they're right there once again. And Fort Collins is maybe the big surprise in this, because they were not one of the top-ranked schools coming into this championship, but there's something about the NXN atmosphere which brings out their best.
And, you know, we mentioned those scores. The goal for Saugus coming in was to try and knock off Manlius, but at the very least to really close down the gap. This is the best group they have. In talking with Bill Aris from Manlius on Wednesday, he had mentioned actually that this Saugus team, the Newhall team, really scares him. He said, really, this team for Newhall this year reminds him of his own team last year, and that definitely had him worried. But right now we see the gap almost 200 points to 3 kilometers, so Manlius is just destroying this field at this point in time.
Well, you can see right there that Rachel Johnson, a quick look at her wrist where the watch is contained. How much longer do they have to run? And it's about 7 minutes time. You know, a little over 1 mile and 2/10, one would think, or 1 mile and 1/10. But back there, there's the 3K mark in 10:50, 3K in 10:50. And we can say that the 2 more Manlius girls just went by. Allie Woodward, there's 157. Coming through 157 is Shaylin Tuitt out of New York once again. She's a senior, 33rd in this race. Last year, 10:48 the official split we see up on the screen. And it continues to be Manlius leading this race with Kinetic, Newhall, Wilmington, and Fort Collins. And the 2 girls up front with a clear lead. Christie Rutledge, 136, going on the outside. And on the inside, 91, Rachel Johnson. What a great 2-woman duel we've got going.
These last 4 years, Tony, the girls' championship is decided by less than 80 points. And right now, through that 2K split, Manlius has advantage 161-point margin over second place Newhall. Actually, Kinetic is in second, Newhall's in third, excuse me. And even Kinetic's got a 61-point lead over Newhall. So that's quite a spread on those first 3 teams.
Yeah, right through the mud puddles they go. The breeze continues to buffet us here up on the Nike Sports Desk. These girls are just running their hearts out just to try to keep warm.
And you can see right there the footing. They're going through that mud patch down the back stretch there. And some of these individuals, you know, later on today, we've got Lucas Versbigas, obviously one of the co-favorites in that boys race. And there's some discussion of the fact that this type of course, this mud course, does not necessarily suit his stride style to a T.
Well,
so
this is definitely a strength runner's course. It's not a speed burner.
Without a doubt. But the way this mud is laid out here, once again, he's got that, Lucas has that like the lunging stride, a bit of a gallop, an antelope gallop that really is not favored on this kind of course, but we'll see. He's a really tough kid. So individually, same situation here with Rutledge out front, Pearson second.
No, that is Johnson in second round.
Ah, Johnson,
Rachel Johnson in second. It's been pretty much this lineup from the gun, and we've seen that Rachel Johnson has accordioned just a little bit back and forth throughout this race. Rutledge has had the lead, maintained a very, very steady effort up front, and you can see Rachel Johnson going through that good patch, bad patch. She closes it up a little bit. You can see her head's back just a little bit. She's working very hard. Rutledge is as well. You know, this is not over by a long shot.
She is drawing almost close to her right there. She's within just a couple of meters, really closing that gap, fighting her way up there. And we'll see how Rutledge responds when she senses that threat right behind.
There's the whoop-de-doos once again, and this is when it really starts to hurt. But as the coaches have been saying all along, and actually Lauren Fleshman, the U.S. National 5,000 meter champion, was saying, you got to expect pain. You got to embrace the pain. Chris Zielinski, we have you out on that lead gate, or how's it look?
It looks good. These two are duking it out. They're not letting each other get 1 inch on each other, and as soon as one runner gets a little bit of ground, the Manlius girl, she has been putting her foot down the entire race, and she's kind of toying with the field, but we'll see at the end if the mud's been too much and the South girl can come back and fill it in, and maybe she's been a little conservative and fly at the end. We'll see.
Chris, how does Rachel Johnson in second place look? Because she's come up on her a couple of times, and every time she has, Christie Rutledge has gone and moved ahead once again. Does it look like Rachel Johnson's got a kick in her?
Rachel, she's been fighting back the entire time. It reminds me of the Chicago Marathon this year with Juan Giro sitting back. She's been just staying close enough to be in contention. They both look like they're working hard, but you know, at this point in the race, everyone's hurting, and you know, it all comes down to that last quarter mile. Who wants it the most?
14:35 and 4K.
Johnson has pulled even right here over the hay bales.
This is telling right now because the hay bales really take some snap out of your legs. You can see that Rutledge handled it just a fraction better, but the minute they get into a rhythm again, there comes Johnson.
Right, definitely. We saw last year on the boys race at the very end, we saw 5 kids ready to duke it out on that last set of hay bales. We saw Zach Wills, one of the previous favorites, clip those hay bales, and that took him out of contention. Of course, we saw at the end Craig Lutz pull it out as a champion. But right here, once again, it looks like we're trying to get Johnson. Is going to be about 2 strides behind. Rutledge remains in the lead in the team battle. Last check, it was Manlius completely dominating. It was basically New York dominating once again. New York has won each of these last 6 Nike Cross Nationals events. Right now they're going 1-2 with Manlius and Kinetic.
Brentley Winslow, number 155, just on our screen, the New York number 1 individual runner. She was 15th in NXN in 2009. So these New York girls, and the thing about them as well is they have to travel all the way across country too, so that's their disadvantage.
And there were some definite travel problems this year with the New York teams. We saw some that we had Shaker on the boys' side. They were supposed to arrive in on Wednesday evening, and they ended up getting in late on Thursday.
Chris, it's 15 minutes and 50 seconds into it, and now we've got them shoulder to shoulder. And now for the first time, we can see that it's Rachel Johnson, a South Region champion, has gone to the lead. But what a battle we've got. It's a cross breeze, so that's not pushing, it's not hurting. It's just right along their right shoulder. And again, 17:26 is the course record from back in 2008. And they've had what a battle. And now for the first time, Rachel Johnson with a bit of a gap.
You know, wait, we had very good footing right here. It's a bit sloppier this time, but on a course like this.
2 more Manlius girls we just saw coming across, and Rachel Johnson is now beginning to pull free. 6th place last year, the top returner, 2nd top returner in this field.
And Johnson threw a look over her shoulder just to see how much of a gap she had, and she's really beginning to really try and force the pace now, and she is definitely opening on Rutledge. Appears to be about 12 to 15 meters at this point.
Rachel Johnson, you know, she stayed close the entire way. Rutledge did her best throughout the entire competition to put her away. She couldn't do it, and now Rachel Johnson, the South Region champion, looks, we say hesitantly, she looks like on her way to the NXN 2010 individual title. But once again, here comes Rutledge.
That last set of hay bales, it looked like Johnson had bit a small problem in that third of the 3 bales right there coming off the curve. They're now about to enter that last final straightaway, that long stretch run to the finish.
2 more Manlius girls in 3rd and 4th. And the odds are it's either going to be Katie Sisko, Jillian Fanning, or Courtney Chapman. 2 of those 3.
But up front, it is Rachel Johnson throwing one more look, opening up her lead, heading. She is now down that final stretch.
And you can see that she's really opening up her stride a lot. She's got some running left in those legs, and she's pouring it on, not looking back that much. She figures, there she goes, one more look just to make sure that no one's coming on her. Boy, she has worked hard for this, trained herself so well. Long-legged, big arm swing to make sure those legs. There's Coach Bill Harris going right in front of our Nike Sports desk with our thumbs up as he's going to that finish line to welcome his girls home. And here comes our 2010 champion, Rachel Johnson from the South region. And she hits the line as champion in 18 minutes, 20 seconds. Christie Rutledge in second.
So did it the hard way on this very muddy course, running up from behind. Once again, we had from the very beginning, Rutledge getting that lead up front. Here comes the chase pack now, hanging away towards the chute.
And it's
great battle for third. A great battle for third here. A couple of individual qualifiers. Manlius is number 2 now. Manlius was now 3 in the chute.
Amy-Eloise Neale from the Northwest in third. 96. That is Haley Pierce in fourth.
Our first from East Aurora now in the chute. Looks like of our first 12 finishers, a majority of these are individual qualifiers, but already Manlius. Here comes Manlius as number 3 now. Number 137 for Manlius.
130.
And Tony, we have someone coming in the chute completely drenched in mud. Obviously took a big spill there on those hay bales. Number 156 giving it her all.
156. You know, that is Kelsey Margie out of New York.
Mahoney and Boulder from Newhall, California just crossed through as well. Here comes our number 4 for Manlius.
Well, Heather Martin from Manlius, a senior, was 75th here last year. She's not normally their third girl. She was today.
4 in the chute, number 4, 138 for Manlius is our number 4 in the chute, if we have this right. Trying to keep an eye out for number 5. It appears no one else has 2 as it is.
Courtney Chapman is 138 of Manlius. 26 last year.
Looks like now we have 3 for Glen Head of New York. We have a big pack now from Kinetic coming into the chute. Looks like we just saw 4 come through from Kinetic, and here comes number 5 and 6.
And on they stream. Every point counts, every second. And there's a little ditch, maybe about 30 meters before the finish, and it can break your stride as you're trying to kick home. And it's a muddy ditch too. You go down a little dip, you hit that big mud puddle, and you come up a little bit. So it's bad footing, but these girls are pouring it on with all they've got.
Our 4K split, our team scores at 4K. Manlius with 59, Kinetic 209, Newhall with 277. So again, Manlius leading by 150 points at 4K, and it looked very good finishing up, although we did see a very big pack from Kinetic finishing roughly about 25 to 35 spots in. But they came in a group of 4, and just behind the number 5 came in a few seconds later as well.
But once again, 59 points. That's in spitting distance of that 51 point scoring record from Kinetic back in 2004, our inaugural year. But as we said all along, in that inaugural year, the teams were not near, they were much more widespread out.
Right.
This championship has created a much denser nation of cross-country runners.
We've seen all around the country course records falling left and right. You'll see on message boards people saying, hey, this is the best team we've had. We should be going to nationals this year. But if they look around across state lines, there are course records falling everywhere. Ever since the advent of these regional championships 3 years ago, we've seen the performance level of teams and individuals really just take off like we've never seen before. So nowadays, everyone's running course records, everyone's running team time records. It's just, competition level is just amazing.
21 minutes, 43 seconds into the 2010 NXN Girls Championship race, and on they stream on a cold, windy day, 40 degrees, wind chill well below that. And these girls put on a great show. The Manlius girls, I mean, they came in here, we heard earlier on Jillian Fanning in that opening comment, we're ready, we're anxious, we're hungry, we want it. And my goodness, they took it by the scruff of the neck and just shook it to death.
But once again, I mean, it definitely appears to be number 5 is now definitely in their grasp. They'll be hosting that, we assume we'll be hosting that plaque in a little while, but they looked so good down there. Tough from the get-go, had a very good start, held together well. You know, up front, Rutledge going for that individual one eventually with Rachel Johnson taking over from Texas to pull that out, and she did it the hard way. The last 1,500 meters really, taking over the race.
right now, let's go down to one of our field reporters, Seamus Eaton, the Nike Run Report.